Are you an HVAC professional looking to set your business apart? Then the Leading HVAC Podcast is your go-to resource. I'm Kimon Hines, coach and trainer at SBE. And in this podcast, we'll share stories of success and struggle from leaders in the HVAC industry. You'll hear from experienced executives, managers, and innovators, providing you with the hard-earned insights from their journeys. These insights will equip you with the knowledge you need to navigate challenges and truly lead in the ever-evolving HVAC world. Welcome back to the Leading HVAC Podcast. I'm your host, Kimon Hines. I'm excited about today's episode, but before we get there, I need you to do a couple of things. The first is you need to subscribe to this podcast. So if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button right there on YouTube. And if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, hit subscribe so that every time we release an episode, you'll be the first to know. The second thing you need to do is to share this. You know someone else who is leading in the HVAC world and they're trying to figure things out. They want to grow. They want resources. Send them this podcast. They'll thank you later. My guest today is someone I consider a friend of mine, someone we work together in my work here as a coach at SBE. And I want to introduce to some and present to others, Jason Gibson. Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Besides being from Memphis, Jason and I also just have so many things that we vibe on, we connect on. And so I want to just share with you, by the way, I mentioned Memphis because I lived there for 6 years and Jason is from Memphis. So we just discovered that before we hit record on this podcast. But Jason, tell people what you do right now in your present role in the HVAC world.
I'm currently the general manager of Carolina Heating Service in Greenville, South Carolina.
Awesome. Now, we're going to get into that, but tell us, just take us back a little bit. Why did you get into the HVAC business and how long have you been in it?
That's a funny question because I'm a plumber by trade. I never intended or wanted to get into the HVAC business. And I had an opportunity about 8 years ago. I was running a plumbing department for a company, and the gentleman that owned the company kind of forced me into taking over the HVAC. And it's not something that I wanted to do, but I quickly learned that it was something that I loved to do. So plumbing's my background, HVAC, a little over 8 years now.
All right. So you said 8 years ago, the gentleman, you said, did he force you into taking over the HVAC department?
Yeah, he was bugging me almost every day. Hey, I want you to run this department. I said, man, I don't want anything to do with it. But I finally gave in, and it's the best thing that I ever did.
So did he ever share with you what he saw in you? Because this is a leadership podcast. What did he see in you, even though one, HVAC was not your background, but also what did he see in you from a leadership perspective? I'm just curious if he shared that with you, that made him say, hey, Jason, I think you could run this department.
He did. And, not having the knowledge, the technical knowledge of the trade, what he taught me very quickly is that would come. That didn't matter. But I was good at running my people in my department on the plumbing side. And he wanted that leadership brought over to the other side of his business.
Yeah. So I think that's what I admire, Jason. You get results. You get things done, right? And as you mentioned, you're general manager of Carolina Heating Services. And so as someone who is a leader, what do you think are the key qualities that make a good leader in this business?
Well, this business or any other business, and I can only speak for me personally, the only thing that I do is love people. I genuinely care and I love people. And when people know that you care and you love them, you care about their career, you care about their family, you care about what's going on in their life, and you can have some kind of impact on them, that's what will motivate people to want to follow you.
So I wonder, right? I think we all can resonate with that. What does that look like? I want to say, like, if we could put a hidden camera that follows Jason Gibson around the office, how does caring about people, having that love and the empathy for them as a leader, how does that look like on a day-to-day basis?
First thing I do every morning when I come in, I go around and connect with everybody before I ever go into my office or to my computer. Find out how their evening was, how was dinner, what'd you do last night, how were the kids? And I'll spend the first hour of my day just talking to everybody, catching up with them. What's going on in your life? What do you need from me today? And I do that several times a day. And what I've come to find out is having that relationship with your people, knowing what motivates them. That's the only way I know how to lead people.
Hmm.
My people know that I love and care about them.
Yeah, yeah. So, Jason, this is what I'm curious about. You are the general manager. And just to give people a little bit of context, Carolina Heating Service, you're the general manager, but the ownership of that company is now controlled by what entity?
Near you.
Okay. So, Near You is a bigger company. How does your role play out in terms of the day-to-day running of the company? How does that GM role fit with another company owning the company that you're GM of?
Well, I'm real fortunate that Near You allows me to run this business like it's my own.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to say that there's not challenges, but they really do. They come in, they've met the people, they see how we run the place, and they let me make decisions. And I've been very fortunate that they allow me to do that.
Right. So we're talking, this is the Leading HVAC podcast. Our guest today is Jason Gibson from Carolina Heating Service. And maybe there's another GM who is listening to this, and he or she might have some apprehension. I don't want to make a mistake, Jason. I don't want my higher ups to think that I am doing too much. I don't want to push the envelope. I want to make sure I'm coloring inside the lines, right? None of those things describe you. How do you lead with courage? And I think that's the word that I want to just describe your leadership. How do I lead with courage, knowing that like I'm not the owner, but I'm the main person here, but there's someone I'm accountable to? How would you talk to another GM in that role?
Well, the funny thing about it, you brought up being scared to make a mistake or mess something up. Listen, man, I mess stuff up all the time. But the thing about it is, when I do, we talk about it, we figure out a resolution, and we move on. And when the people that work for me see that I do that, they do that as well. So they come to me and they say, "Hey, Jason, I screwed this up. What can we do?" And we just have an open line of communication. And that's the most important thing about running a business, especially the size of Carolina Heating Service.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you said if you mess up, you will own it in your team. All
Absolutely.
right, so this might be a question. You probably weren't prepared for this one. Can you think of something you messed up and you had to go back to your team and say, okay, my bad, I messed this up? And talk to us about how that conversation went, who was in the room, because I think sometimes as leaders, we're afraid if we admit mistakes, we're going to lose credibility. Give us that example.
Trying to think of the latest mistake that I've made that I've had to own up to. Here, not too long ago, I made a decision on how we structured some things with our pricing and completely screwed it up. Did not have all the right facts, didn't have all the right information. And what we were selling, the product that we were selling, we weren't making any money at. And it was solely on me. And one of my guys brought it to my attention. They said, "Hey, I know that you put this out, but I want to make you aware that the cost of this is a lot higher than what you probably thought it was." And if that person had not come to me and said that, we would still be doing those types of jobs, losing money. It would have been a little while before I would have figured that out. But they were right. And I set my team back down. I said, "Listen, I screwed this up. I need some help. Let's make sure we get all the information this time and we price this correctly."
Wow. I think it also takes the atmosphere that you created. You talked about this before, right? A caring, there's a connection there that person could feel comfortable saying, "Hey, Jason, you're off on this," right? To be able to confront you on that, because a lot of times as leaders, we may not create that environment, and that's something we all need to be careful that we're creating environments where people can actually tell us when we're making mistakes.
That's exactly right. And that's what I'm so happy about with the team that I have is anybody working here knows that they can come to me and talk to me about anything. And they do. It's not just all talk, whether it's something in their personal life or something going on at work. I have some of the greatest conversations with my team. Yesterday, as a matter of fact, I decided I'd go out on an install job with one of our install teams. And I got to spend some time with those guys and really learned a lot about them and a lot more what they were going through now that we've grown to the size that we are that I wasn't aware of. So that was very valuable to me. And I think my guys appreciated that.
Yeah. I'm loving this. You are in the trenches. You are kind of have your finger on the pulse of what's going on and how your team members are feeling. And I'm always wanting to think about the question one of our viewers or our listeners may be asking. So maybe there's another general manager or another leader who is thinking, wow, I wish I had all the time in the world like Jason has, right? Like you could just pick up and go out there with the installers and show up in the morning and ask people how their evening was. But my hair is on fire. Like when I get to work, I have a million fires to put out and things that are going on. How do I even create the time for the relationship building and the riding along and the just having the how do I create that time, Jason?
You have to have the right people in the right position.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it be my service manager, install manager, office manager, doesn't matter. I've got a really good team that handles 90% of the fires, and they take care of most everything before it gets to me. And that allows me the time to do what I love to do. So I'm really fortunate. It's all about having the right team and the right people in place. If I had to deal with all the fires that came through this place, there's no way that I could do it. Not one person can do it. So you have to have the right team in place and make sure they understand their roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, well, you've emphasized the right team over and over again. And maybe that's something we should lean into a little bit. How long have you been in this present role as GM of Carolina Heating Service?
A little over 2 years. I was the install manager here prior to that.
Okay. The team that you have now that you mentioned have the right team. Was that team in place 2 years ago when you got into this role?
Absolutely not.
Okay, good. Let's stay right here. How did you get this team in place? And we're not trying to throw shade at anyone who might not be on the team anymore, but how do you get the right people in and maybe move some people around who may not be in the right place?
Well, I think the key to it is, so Carolina Heating Service, we're almost 100 employees. So we're a big ship, and it takes a lot of time to turn a big ship versus a small boat, right? So the only way you're going to figure out if you've got the right person in the right place is to spend some time in that department and spend some time with the people that are in the trenches and know what the issues are and how they need to be dealt with. And then once you learn about people and their leadership style and how they see things, then you can start trying to piece all this together to figure out what's the best fit.
So you spent time in each of these departments evaluating the culture of that department, how it was happening. And then how did you go about like hiring new people? Like how did you, because, that's another challenge people are saying, I can't find good people. I can't find good leaders. I can't find good managers of different departments. How did you find these people?
I built those people. There's not anybody on my team that's from the outside. They all here prior. The people that are in place now, they had the ability. Maybe they just didn't have somebody see that ability in them and try to grow that in them. So there's nobody from the outside. The people were already here. They just needed some love. They needed some time spent with them. They needed some coaching.
Yeah.
And that's what it was all about. One of the greatest things about, I'll take the plumbing department, for example. We were looking for some plumbers and like everybody, we couldn't find the right fit. So we took a couple of the women CSRs that were interested, and now they're working in the plumbing department. So you may be looking for something that you already have.
Wow. That's interesting. Some of your CSRs, they ended up transitioning to become plumbers. I don't think many of us are thinking about that, right, Jason? We don't think, well, I need plumbers. Let me look over my CSR department. I don't think a lot of us are that's even in our radar. Like, how do you think that way as a leader?
Well, the cool part about Carolina Heating is our CSRs, we encourage them to ride along with the techs so that they know what the techs are going through. And then vice versa, the techs will come in at times and sit with CSR so they know what they're dealing with. And a couple of the people have taken interest in being in the field, and we just work off of that and grow off of that. And I think I currently have 4 people in the field that came out of the office.
Wow.
So again, you may be looking and you may be struggling, but the person you're looking for may already be sitting 20 foot away
Right.
from you.
Right under your nose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, a couple more things I want to touch on. Data. So yes, we hear that it's a very connected environment. Culture is important. What's the role of data in the success and your leadership as the general manager of Carolina Heating Service?
I don't know if this is going to answer your question, but one of the most important things that we started doing a few years ago is we meet every morning with what we call our revenue meeting, and every department head and coordinator, we come together for no more than 20 minutes and we go over what went on yesterday, what's going on today, and how are we looking for tomorrow.
Ooh.
And it sounds like a lot, but 20 minutes, we solve a lot of problems. There may be a department that somebody needs some help and I've got a plumber that has nothing to do. So we can kind of match those two together and figure it out. So my answer to that is daily communication between the people that make the decisions.
I love that. I mean, that was the next question I was going to ask you about the role of meetings, but you're talking about here's these daily meetings. They're not long because who likes a long meeting, right?
Right.
Right. 20 minutes. What we did yesterday, what are we doing today? What do we need to do tomorrow? And it sounds like we're just one big team. So if plumbing is overstaffed today, meaning that we don't have enough work to do and someone else needs some work, and the fact that we're riding along in different departments, we help each other. I love it. I love it. All right. What's a challenge in your work that keeps Jason Gibson up at night right now?
The challenge, and my biggest challenge right now is we're growing, and we've been growing for the last year and a half. The biggest challenge for me is keeping that personal connection with every employee that I have. Because as you get bigger, that gets harder to do.
Yeah.
So I really strive to stay on top of that. And when you have as many people as we do, I mean, that's a task.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a task, but I love it. That's what I love to do.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to slip this in. This is my last question before we get to our rapid fire.
Uh-oh.
People hear connection, build the team, empower from within, grow from within. Have you ever had to fire anyone? And how does that process look for you with that culture?
That's a good question. So yes, obviously I've had to fire people. It's tough for me. It's real tough for me. And I have to separate the emotional from the business, right? That's one of the very few times that I have to make sure that I do that. I will tell you this, most of the people that I've had to let go, I still stay in contact with. I will tell you that the people that have left here voluntarily, I would say 90% of them have come back within a month.
Wow.
So yeah, firing people is tough. It's tough for sure. But like I said, that's one of my big struggles is separating the business from the emotional, because I have a connection with these people.
Yeah.
I know about their family. I know about their kids. But at the end of the day, yeah, we are a business and we have to make money, but we're pretty selective on who we bring on into our team initially and make sure that they're the right fit.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. It sounds like you hire slowly, but also because of that, I know people say hire slow, fire quickly. I don't know if that's the way you say it, right? But sounds like because of those connections, even that process is not one that you enter into lightly.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Most of the people that work here are three more positions away from where they ever started. They were the right person. I didn't have them in the right place. So I move them around to where they fit a little better.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest struggle with everybody right now is finding people, and you have to take advantage of the people that you already have. You may not have them in the right place. That's why they're struggling. That's why they're not doing a good job. Maybe try to move them somewhere else.
Right.
And what I found is that's where people are shining, is when I get them in the right place.
Yeah, Jason, that's a golden nugget from this podcast right here. Get people in the right place. All right, Jason, let me get you out on these rapid fire questions, right? What's the best business book that you've read or the best business resource that you put your hands on?
The best business book or business resource that I've put my hands on. God, you got me on the spot here, man. A book that I recently read is called Break All the Rules.
I wonder why you like that book, Jason.
Yeah.
Who was it by the way? So if you have it,
I don't even think I could tell you.
but put it this way: if you put it in Amazon or any other search engine, you'll find "Break All the Rules." Give us one nugget from the book. Well, besides the title, right?
Yeah. The biggest thing I got from that book is don't be afraid to venture out and make a decision that may not make sense to others. I make decisions all the time that are questionable, but I have a goal in mind and have a plan. And I've been fortunate enough that things have worked out for us.
Awesome. What's one thing you want to be better at as a leader in the next year?
One thing I want to be better at as a leader, I need to be better at mentoring people below my initial management team. That's something that's important to me that I need to spend more time on that I'd like to do.
Yeah. Okay. What are the top ways you de-stress and you enjoy your life?
Sleep. Believe it or not, I love cutting the grass and I love spending time with my family.
I love it. It's good. All right. 2 years ago, you came into this role. So if you could give advice to Jason Gibson 2 years ago, starting in this new role, what's one piece of advice you'd give to yourself?
One piece of advice I would give to myself. I'll be honest with you. The thing that I'm the most proud of is I've always said what I thought, stuck by it, and been true to myself. And I would just tell myself to continue doing that. And it's real easy, especially when you've got a bigger corporation over you, to want to, maybe give in on some morals or some values sometimes, but just stay true to yourself. That's what it's all about for me.
I love it. Listen, Jason Gibson has been our guest today. You heard it from him. Stay true to yourself, know your values, and care about the people that you lead. And if you are in a GM role, we just want to encourage you, lead with courage, have your vision, grow the people that you work with. And that's for any leadership group, right? Any leadership role, grow the people that are a part of your team. And we're just so glad that you have been watching and listening to the Leading HVAC podcast. Thank you for listening to the Leading HVAC podcast. If you would like to learn more about SBE, you can find us online at sbeodyssey.com. That's sbeodyssey.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, we would appreciate it if you would leave us a review on this podcasting platform. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.